Welcome to All Things Green, which is now stewarding green energy. And why the name change, Chris? Oh, that was easy. I thought we needed to be more stewards and less about the green, um, which is kind of a crazy statement because we want to steward the money as well as the energy. But here we are. So let's talk about insulation. This is part two. I'm just going to give you guys some of the insulation details and what's out there. So let's get ready for this video. I went to Home Depot and shot a bunch of videos, or shot a bunch of pictures of insulation. And I'm going to throw them up here as we talk about them. Hopefully I'll remember. And also, when I was looking them up online, I noticed there's a new feature called GWP, or global warming potential. I'm like, okay, guys, we need to calm down here. I'm gonna do a video here, probably sometime this winter, on global warming and carbon in the air, especially CO2. Everybody's like, oh, CO2 is bad, it's bad. Let's get some facts. That if this video doesn't demonetize me, that one will before we get started. But here we are. So we got to talk about serious things and just have a fireside chat. So cellulose, and I will try and put a picture right up here in my editing. Cellulose is ground up newspaper and boric acid. Now, a couple of the states, they may add a few other ingredients, but boric acid is the fire retardant and pest inhibitor in New York State, and ground up newspaper. So sometimes there were chunks of paper you could actually read the comics, read a couple words. So cellulose is a great product. You can pretty much put it anywhere you want in the house as long as it's not in contact with a masonry surface, or it's in a place that's going to get wet, like in the basement. If it does get wet, it's going to soak up 1.5 times its own weight in water, and then your ceiling collapses. So try to avoid that. Well, cellulose, that's kind of an old thing, right? Yeah, it's been around a long time, and it works really well. It's recycling at its finest. I highly recommend it. It's probably the best, other than the water issue. It's probably the best insulation product you can get. Just got to keep it dry. So cellulose is good. Fiberglass, and I'll try to get a picture of fiberglass right up here. I'm throwing these in now so that I remember to put it up. Fiberglass is spun glass. That's all it is. They make it in chunks. They make it in we call it cotton candy in the industry. It looks like you're crawling through cotton candy and you can throw it at people, but I don't recommend that. It's so you can blow chopped fiberglass into the attic, and it's called open blow fiberglass. You can put it in bats. You can put it in unfaced bats. You can put it in basement blankets, which I don't recommend. We'll get into that a little bit. But fiberglass is probably, if you're doing it yourself, that's what you're going to use because it's the most accessible, it's the cheapest, and it's kind of dirty, it's kind of icky. Wear a face mask, wear at least the dust mask when you do it, and do it the right way. Paper side goes to the heated side of the wall, so if you're putting it in the walls, keep the paper side towards the house, not the outside. Basement fiberglass blankets. What could go wrong? Well, let's take a vinyl wrapped sponge and hang it on a masonry wall and then expect it to work. My take on a basement is we dig a hole, we line it with a porous substance called cement, concrete, or concrete block, and then we try to keep it dry. Let that sink in for a minute. And then we put fiberglass bats on the wall, wrapped in, at least one side is wrapped in vinyl because you don't want to look at it, you don't want to get all icky from it, and the vinyl looks nice and clean. What about the other side? Sometimes it has vinyl, sometimes it doesn't, and the ones that don't, they get all icky, and you could stick your hand in there and squeeze, and it's like wringing out a sponge. So I'm not a fan of fiberglass blankets in the basement. It's just a bad idea. But again, they sell it, so you can do what you want. I just think it's a bad deal for your money and a bad deal for the house down the road. Let's talk about rigid foam. So there may be a couple pictures up here because there's a bunch of different foams out there. I was, if I remember correctly, I saw some extruded polystyrene, which is pink board. Sometimes it's blue board. Foil-faced isocurinate. There was some foil-faced, so isocurinate, I was trying to say that a few minutes ago on another video take. It's the yellowish looking foam. There's also foil-faced styrofoam, which obviously is white and breaks into little beads. Don't like that stuff either. Makes a mess. But isocurinate, that's not bad. Why is it foil-faced? Well, the foil face is a radiant barrier. But the radiant barrier only works if there's an air gap between it and the next surface. So if you put it up against the sheetrock, that foil face didn't do you any good. So keep that in mind if you're playing around with that product. But what does this product have that the other two don't have? Water. Not that there's water in it, but they're more water resistant. They're quite water resistant. So rigid foam, you can put it in rim joist. So you go down in the basement, you see the floor joist going overhead, and it stops. And all there is between you and the outside world is a 2x10, and the outside sheathing, no insulation, no air sealing, nothing. So that foil face isocurinate, that right there should go in, cut it tight, fit right in there. Again, you want to use that foil face, you're gonna have to leave yourself, put some spacers in there so you have a gap. Put the next layer in, fill that right up. I had a friend in the industry, and I went over to his house one day and I said, "Ed, what are you doing with all of this styrofoam packaging?" He goes, "Hey, I got to insulate my attic or my rim joist." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, people just throwing insulation out every week on trash night, and I pick it up and I bring it home and I cut it with a hot knife, and then I get rectangles and I put them up there, and then I'll just one part foam them in place." And I was like, "Okay, that works. Yeah, I'm not sure what the R value is, but hey, free is free, right?" A little more work, but that's all right. So Ed had a lot of great ideas, and he was a great guy, good colleague, smart guy. I think I kind of think we lost him too soon, unfortunately. But so rigid foam, right? Well, hey, what about these spray foams? And I don't know if I got a picture of spray foam or not. I will look around. If not, I think I might have a can of great stuff. I could take a picture of and throw it up there. And so 1 part foam comes out of the can and hardens by exposure to air. 2 part foam has the foam, resin. I think that's usually part A, and then part B would be the catalyst to make it. I might have that wrong. I haven't studied 2 part foam in quite a while. But the other part will make it cure. It also off gases a very nasty chemical, and the name escapes me at the moment. You don't want to smell it. You don't want to get exposed to it. And if you are exposed to it, you could become sensitive to it to the point where it'll make you sick. And a lot of insulation guys end up getting exposed to that and then they can't do insulation work anymore. So 2-part foam is really for the professionals. 1-part foam if you're going to use like a can of great stuff, and it's a one-shot deal. So hang on. Let me back up for a second. It's a one-shot deal. But if you're planning ahead and you know, okay, I've got this spot, this spot, this spot, this spot, and I can go down the line and just foam them, and then the can seals itself shut and you're done, right? I see Great Stuff came out with a foam gun. So you take the Great Stuff can, you put it on the foam gun, you can open and close the trigger, and it's not a one-time use. You can actually use the entire can. So if you've got more than 3 little holes to fill in the side of your house, go get one of those. It's probably going to set you back $50 or $60, but it's worth it. If you got 3 holes, go grab a tube of caulk and fill them up. That's honestly, it's going to be the easiest way to do it. So anyway, so 1-part foam. What's it for? Well, mostly just sealing up holes and making sure that you're not losing air. So we're not talking about insulation as in keep the heat in the house. We're talking about insulation as keep the air in the house, because air costs money to heat it and cool it heat it in the winter, cool it in the summer. So that's what that stuff is for. Now the 2-part foam, you could 2-part foam a brand new house. Let it air out for a couple of days and then go ahead and have the sheetrock guys come and hang all the sheetrock, and you'll be good to go, and you're going to have a super tight house and a super warm house and low energy bills. And if you're building a new house, that is probably a good way to go. If you're already living in a house and you want somebody to come in and spray foam it, I'm going to tell you, you probably don't want to do that. And you'll have to vacate your house for like 24 hours. So stay in a hotel overnight, let it mitigate all the fumes. It's probably not what most of us would want to do. Okay. Just, giving you a heads up on that one. And foam is not cheap. Cellulose is relatively cheap. Foam is not cheap. Now, I don't have a picture of this either, but there is a fully expanded foam that they can inject into cavities. I worked for a company that did it. I'm not going to name their name here, but they basically blow the walls with fully expanded foam. It's a really cool product. It doesn't off gas because it's not like the 2-part foam with the resin and a hardener. It's a resin and a blowing agent. It's different. It doesn't off gas. MDM, that's the chemical name, letters, three letter acronym, whatever. It's MDM. The fully expanded foam does not off gas MDM. It's a completely different product. So if you got a house that's needs insulation, the walls are empty, that might be a good product. If your house has fiberglass, but it's very thin fiberglass in the walls, I will tell you from experience that cellulose will work. It will flatten the fiberglass and it will fill the cavity. I've done it many, 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 many times in the field. I've done it in demos with a glass wall panel. It can be done. The trick is when you're sliding the hose into the wall that you get past the fiberglass and you get all the way to the top or bottom so that you can insulate. Now, that brings up an interesting point. Well, my uncle had cellulose blown in and it all settled and it was only halfway up the wall. Well, yeah. So if you go by a house and you look and you see a line of holes about waist height, and then you look up and you see another line of holes at about 6 foot up, that's the 1-inch hole, high density, blow the wall method. Then nobody uses that anymore. What we use now is a tube fill method where we put a fairly large hole, 2.5 inch. Sometimes it's a double figure 8 like this. And that will give us enough room to get the hose in, and the hose goes all the way to the bottom of the cavity, and you start filling, and then the hose goes all the way up to the top of the cavity, and you fill all the way back, and then you pack it off at the hole. Good operators don't have to turn the machine off when they go from that hole to the next. They can flip a valve and move. I've done it. I've done it many times. I am definitely out of practice doing it now, but I could probably still pull it off. In fact, hanging right over here, a couple feet away is my hose that I built from Spa Hose, and a 4-inch, I think it's a 4-inch, maybe it's a 3-inch PVC valve right from Lowe's. And I've used that on my parents' house. I've used it on my parents' house when I was growing up. Used it on my parents' house they live in now. Used it in a few other places as well. So it's gotten used and it works pretty well. And yes, we did use it with a rental machine, and they tell you not to do that. But when you know how to do it, you know how to do it. So what did I forget to tell you guys? We covered high density cellulose. That's where you blow it in the wall. Low density cellulose, where you didn't do so good and it settled. Also open blow in the attic. So when you open blow in the attic, it shouldn't be coming out like a blizzard. It should come out in a slug and just fall to the ground. Very minimum dust. And just make sure you get your measuring sticks laid out so you can get it to the right height and keep it nice and level all the way. And again, you just get in the attic, you start blowing, and you slither your way out. Have somebody pull the hose behind you so it's not in your way, or you're not tripping on it, and you just do it, man. I've done. I remember one house we did. It was a ranch, and it was cedar shake. So I started opening. The other guy started laying out the hose and the cords and power and everything. I had one wall done. So he started dumping bags and opening, and I took the hose and I started filling, and we did a whole ranch in 3 hours. Start to finish, closed it back up. Nobody knew we were even there. So it can be done. It's pretty good. I like cellulose. If you hadn't guessed. Attics, done a lot of attics, done dense packing in Florida attics, done open blows in attics with trusses, framed attics, you name it. Probably the most interesting cellulose job was actually the house I grew up in. Back in 2011 had a flood. So after the flood, my parents got out of there, got the money, insurance money, and moved. No more floods. But this was an old house, and it had a 2-story garage machine shop behind it. And so where you pulled in with the garage bay, that became the master bedroom. The first floor that was next to it became the living room, and it was all built with I-beams. And we're like, how do we insulate this floor? Because it's terrible. It's cold. It's uncomfortable. And it's mildewing on the bottom side from condensation and other issues. And so we figured out a way to wrap cellulose. What we did was we fitted plywood into the I-beams, like, so it's sitting here and it's sitting here on each side of that cavity, and those are like 24 inches wide. And then on the ends where the I-beams went directly into the concrete foundation, we put in plastic and we sealed it to the plywood, we sealed it to the floor, we caulked it to the I-beams, and then we put these panels in, and then we filled those panels with cellulose. Let me tell you, that took a long time. Those were big cavities. But what I can tell you is the same day we finished, my mom walked in the living room and she goes, "My feet aren't freezing." Success. So everything was perfect. The insulation was perfect. Right up until they had the flood, they had 6 feet of water in that room. So yeah, it all got ripped out and they moved up on top of a hill, um, completely out of that valley. They moved 2 hours from there, kind of back to their hometown, back near where I live now. So it's good. But yeah, you get creative. You can get insulation where it needs to be. It doesn't have to be expensive. Um, that's what I got for you guys. I'm gonna get this edited and get out of the garage because the temperature's dropping this weekend and it's gonna be. There's no way I'm coming out here. Maybe grab one tool or grab a battery, but that's it. I'm not sticking around out here in the garage. It's gonna be too cold. So we'll see you on the next video.